So welcome again, Kim and Elaine, to the Art of Letting Go Zoom room for another live session. Good chat there in our expression session. And some of the themes that came up around suffering, letting go of special attachment, we'll dive into those in today's session. So let's do that. I'm just going to share my screen. And if you can start off with the quote today, one of you, that would be good. Let me just get that up. Okay, so today's quote is from the course. It's from the workbook. Okay, so one of you can read that quote. That'll be great. Get a bit bigger. This is adapted from workbook lesson 198 in our alternative art of letting go language. Okay, so Kim,
Okay.
if you can read that, or Elaine, I don't mind.
Okay. Letting go is the only road that leads out of disaster, past all suffering, and finally away from death. How could there be another way when this one is the plan of perfect love itself? And why would you oppose it, quarrel with it, seek to find 1,000 ways in which it must be wrong, 1,000 other possibilities?
Yeah, it's a very, very clear statement of the truth. Just saying forgiveness or let go is the only way. It's the only road. It's the only way out of disaster, past all suffering, and finally away from death. If you look at it logically, I mean, what other way could there be? What, are you going to escape those by holding on to them? Obviously, you're not going to escape if you hold on. It's only by letting go that you can ever be free of them. So we must let go of our belief in these illusions and our false self-concept that is invented and perpetuates them. So the key insight of the course is that all these illusions are just part of our belief in these illusions, is part of our self-concept, part of our identity. So we find it difficult to let go because our self-concept, who we believe we are, our very identity, is embroiled in these illusions. It's attached to them. We get a sense of identity from these illusions. That's why it's so difficult to let them go. So why do you find it difficult to let go of disaster and suffering and death? Why is it so difficult to let go of those? Because your very sense of identity, of being a separate individual person, is bound up with disaster, suffering, and death. Can you see that very clearly? So if you can, that's the first step in awakening. Going, okay, I'm seeing how the ego, my separate self-concept, feeds off this, how it needs disaster and suffering and death in order to exist. Can you see that? And that's why the world is the way it is. That's why there's always been disaster and suffering and death, and why there always will be, because the ego requires it in order to exist. And now you start to connect the dots and make sense of what otherwise is a completely nonsensical, insane world. Suddenly you understand why there's so much disaster and suffering and death. And you don't go, oh, well, God did it. God had nothing to do with it, whatsoever. This is a delusion. This is a thought system of separation. It's a denial of God. It's false. So to emphasize his point, Yeshua also tells us that this is the plan of perfect love, which he also calls the universal curriculum. We all came to this world to learn at one-ment or atonement, if you prefer pronouncing it in its traditional form, but at one-ment really speaks much more to what it is. It's the at one-ment. It's becoming at one with your source and with all of your companions. Salvation, or as we call it in alternative Aswalingo language, awakening. So all of these traditional Christian terms have an alternative. Other teachers have called this enlightenment or transformation. Whatever you call it, it remains the singular, timelessly true purpose for all human lives. And this is why it's also been called the perennial philosophy that has been in evidence since before recorded human history, starting with the shamans of the prehistoric tribes, developing to the more sophisticated teachings of ancient India, called the Vedas, that spread through Asia, which in turn led to many Eastern religions such as Hinduism, Taoism in China, Buddhism, developed as a sort of counter to the corruption of Hinduism. Around the teachings of spiritually awakened masters like Krishna, Laozi, and Siddhartha Gautama. These were sort of the masters who founded these great religions. Then Yeshua, I believe he spent time studying and practicing these teachings in India and Tibet. Deeply understood the Eastern teachings. He added his own unique insights about the tiny mad idea of separation, as he calls it in A Course in Miracles, and the sin and guilt believing in this idea fosters, which then lead to all the ego's other mad thoughts and emotions, such as fear of punishment, desire or craving, as the Buddha called it, anger, hatred, jealousy, and all the other negative thoughts and emotions, which are quite well shown here. We have a look at the descent into hell. We've looked at this many times before. But you see, the moment you decide to separate and then decide to be an individual consciousness with your own individual identity, the disaster starts, the difficulty starts, because you then must believe that in order to exist, you're guilty, you're sinful at your core, because to exist as a separate identity, you must have destroyed perfect oneness, otherwise you couldn't exist. And so at the very core of the ego is the sin of destroying God or love or oneness or being or pure formless awareness, whatever you want to call it, and the guilt that it feels for that. And that sin and guilt require punishment. And you must now be punished for your sin, and now you're going to fear that punishment. False expectation of punishment appearing real. And so now you have sin, guilt, fear, and attack, and you believe that there's something outside of you, a fearful, wrathful God somewhere out there in the sky, in heaven, in hell, wherever you want to believe it is, that's going to get you. You can't handle that, your ego can't handle it, so it seeks to project that guilt onto other people and accuse, blame, and attack them and condemn them in the hope that they are the ones then who are going to be accused and condemned and judged by God, and you get off scot-free. And that's that accusation, blame, attack program is going on all the time in this world. And so we just then increase the guilt and the fear of attack and the projection of guilt. The more that cycle goes, we end up living a helpless, animated little life of limitation, lack, loneliness, suffering, and inevitable death, if we believe the whole story. That's the ego's story. That's the ego's self-concept. That's its identity. That's what it's trying to tell us we are. But it's not true, because that original idea of separation isn't true. So nothing that comes from a false idea can be true. Well, that's the key insight of the Course. That's the key teaching. We just have to hold to that insight and that truth in the face of all the lies of the ego, which are numerous, are legion. The whole world is a lie. So the entire world of form, your body, your separate identity, the idea that they're people walking around, speaking, acting, the idea that there's separate anything, separate animals, separate objects, all of that is a lie based on the idea of separation. So the extent of the lie goes very, very deep. I think part of the awakening is to realize just how deep the lie goes and get to its core. So, at the very core of it, there's just one tiny mad false idea behind this whole thought system. And if I can get to that core and recognize that that is false, then I am free. And I go back to pure form of awareness with perfect love, oneness, God, whatever I want to call it, and there's no separation there. And then all of this, all these negative consequences of separation just drop away. They cease to exist. Okay, so let's go back to this. So to understand more deeply what the perennial philosophy is and how it relates to Yeshua's teachings in A Course in Miracles. I put this article about the perennial philosophy written by a scholar, an academic, also a Course in Miracles student called Roger Walsh, Dr. Roger Walsh, which maybe we can have a quick look at. It's very interesting, talking about the perennial wisdom and how that relates to other spiritual paths, particularly yoga. So, okay, so how does the Course stack up against yoga, which is the most ancient spiritual path in the East, based on Advaita Vedanta, which is really saying the same thing. It's a non-dual philosophy. It's saying the same thing as the Course. In fact, Bill Thetford's on record saying the Course is just the Christian version of the Vedanta. So there's a connection. They're saying the same thing, and he goes into this. I can highly recommend reading this article. Maybe we can just review a few of the key points. So he talks about one of the hallmarks of a profound teaching is that when you go through it, again, you find what philosophers call higher grades of significance, and this seems to happen each time that he goes through the Course. So you might have found that the more you go through this, the more you go, but there's a deeper level of understanding. I've read the same lesson many times, but this time I get a deeper level of understanding, of insight, and something drops for me. Maybe I apply it to a particular situation I'm dealing with at the time, and bang, a lesson that I've read 10 times before still has significance and a deeper level of that significance. So most people, who do the Course seriously agree. There's a kind of a perennial wisdom, and you can just keep working with it because there's always something there, and you just go deeper and deeper into it, so you don't get bored of it. It gets a lot deeper. I think back to when I first started the Course, reading it in 2006, which is going on 20 years ago now. Did I really understand it? No. A lot of it was just kind of just going in on some level. I sort of appreciated there was wisdom there, but did I really understand it? No, not really. I'm honest about it. But after 20 years, I can read the same passages and go, okay, I'm really understanding these on a deeper level. So have either of you experienced that with the Course?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it just enriches as time goes on. Yeah, it's not really an end to the book, is there really?
Yeah, which is one of the hallmarks of a very profound philosophy. Profound teachings, the perennial philosophy. It gets deeper and richer with time. It doesn't, some books you read, you're like, okay, I kind of got that. I can't read it over and over again. It doesn't have the depth to allow me to do that. But the Course is not like that. The Course is like, okay, you can study this, you can go deeper into it, you can get understandings that you just didn't get when you first read a passage. You can get understandings that are very helpful in your current life situation, that meant for you at that time in your journey, which years ago you could have read the same passage and it just didn't have that meaning because you weren't going through what you're going through. So it becomes, like an oracle. You can read it, you can study it. It's a companion on your spiritual journey in life, and that's what all the great teachings do. Ken Wilber, who's probably read more widely in the world's psychologies and spiritual traditions than anyone else, says the Course is on a level with anything he's run across. Okay, so it's kind of the highest level. It's up there with the great spiritual texts of humanity. The Tao Te Ching, you could say, I'd argue it's less dualistic, so probably even higher than that. But it's similar. The Bhagavad Gita, some of the ancient Vedas. These are sacred texts, and the course is right up there, and it has also a lot of modern psychology as well as non-dual teaching. So it's a really interesting blend of modern psychological concepts integrated with traditional Christianity and mystic non-dual spirituality, all kind of bundled into this one book. And of course, it's going to take time to unravel all that, understand it, because there's so many aspects to it. So then what he talks about is how well integrated the course is. So most parts are the result of a variety of sages just speaking contemporaneously to various groups, disciples taking down some of their sayings and forgetting others. The collected writings are not terribly integrated. In the life of Jesus, for example, we have a few hundred lines, a few thousand maybe directly attributable to the Buddha. Right? So these are the scriptures. But the Course isn't like that. It's not a few, accounts of what he said, taken down and then, sort of passed down through the ages, and often gets lost in translation. This is a very well integrated system of mind training, starting beginning on page 1, running through a logical progression to the end. You've got 365 daily lessons, which start with some very basic lessons in meaning. Nothing I see means anything, and ends up in helping you to surrender to the Holy Spirit. Say, well, I'm just trusting this presence in me that I wasn't even aware was there now, and I'm giving my life to that. I'm letting that guide my thoughts, my words, and my actions. So it leads you through this whole sequence of lessons. It's very logical. So it's about deconstructing our usual way of perceiving and then substituting or reconstructing a healthier way. Right? So the first part of the course is undoing of the ego. Second part is saying, let's start connecting with your spirit, with your true self, and living through that, and letting that guide you. So 4 yogas include ethics, concentration, emotions, and wisdom, are all given attention and skillfully combined. So the course seems to be the perennial wisdom, which is the common core underlying the world's great religions. So Aldous Huxley called it perennial philosophy, stated in Christian form, embodies thousands of years old teachings about the nature of the universe, of humanity, and of awakening in a Christian idiom, a Christian language. So it employs a variety of techniques. One way of comparing the different religions is to use Hindu's divisions of spiritual path into the 4 yogas. Okay, so these are 4 types of paths that emphasize different aspects of training. So the 4 classic yogas are Jnana Yoga, so yoga about intellect, intellectual discrimination, by which we use the intellect to pare away illusions. So Ramana Maharshi, path of inquiry, looking at yourself and going, so who suffers? These are all, classic Jnana Yoga techniques. Then there's Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of love and devotion, emotional approach for those people who have a heartfelt stance towards religion. Someone like Mother Teresa might have been a good example of that. Very devoted to her cause. She went into the slums of Calcutta, and she helped children and women, and she was very, very loving, very devoted. So that was her path. Rather than the intellectual path. Spirituality, then there's Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of work and service. You could argue that someone like Mother Teresa combined that, the yoga of devotion with the yoga of work and service in the world very well. And then finally Raja Yoga, which is primarily a meditative path. So that's, okay, I'm just going to sit and I'm going to go inward, and I'm going to connect with my higher self, and I'm going to just try and stay in this really blissful samadhi type state a lot of the time. So these are the four paths, and the Course has elements of all four of these yogas or paths in it. So yeah, maybe let's just go through it. I think this is this interesting to break it down like this, and then we'll do the lesson.
Which paths do you want to break down? Just one of the paths.
Yeah, so these are the four paths of yoga which are present in the Course. So if we look at the path of the intellect, the Course is a path of the intellect. Absolutely. Helen Schuckman's on record saying, finally, spiritual path for intellectuals. Hallelujah. It's very intellectual. It takes an intellect to start to decipher it. You need to have I think a fairly strong intellect to really start to process it and deal with it. And people who don't have that are typically not attracted to the Course. They'll find another spiritual path, which is okay. But this sort of appeals to intellects. People have strong intellect, and he's saying it's the most sophisticated cognitive behavior modification text that he's come across. The descriptions of the nature of identification, psychological defenses, and perception that are on a par with anything contemporary psychology or the traditional wisdom teachings. He says in his lectures at the university on these topics, I find some of the ideas from the Course very useful, though I don't usually confess this. So the Course lays out a very precise thought system, which it says is an optimal thought system for awakening, right? So he's very specific, he uses precise language, and there's no like, oh, well, a bit of this and a bit of that, and some paths kind of a bit of a mishmash, and they draw on various ideas, and then they'll be contradictory. These are dualistic paths. The Course has a very, very specific, clear thought system. It says this one is the correct one and this one isn't. The Holy Spirit's thought system is correct and will work, and the ego's one isn't. So according to the Course, our thought system creates our worldview and our sense of self and reality. So our perception is a reflection of our states of mind and our thought system. We project onto the world much of what is within us, right? So the idea that the world's a projection, it's within me, and then as within, so without, I project it out. And then I see what I want to see. And I interpret it according to my programming, unless I'm willing to change that. So in a radical ontological sense, the Course says that the world is a creation of the mind, and in this way it echoes the opening of the Buddha's teaching in the Dhammapada, which begins by saying, maybe one of you read that, just to interrupt my monologue. Elaine, if you can read that.
We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make our world.
So, that says it very clearly. Our thoughts give rise to the world that we perceive, the world that we live in, how we interpret the world. And so the Course, like Buddhism and other forms of the perennial wisdom, says that our thought systems are insane. We consequently create and enmesh in dreams and illusions, although we don't realize it. In other words, our dreams and illusions are self-masking, and we mistake them for reality. And so we're profoundly confused. And to help us understand this, the Course asks us to reflect on our sleeping dreams. These show us that our minds have the capacity to literally create worlds and bodies that seem totally real to us while we're dreaming. We run into tables and they seem to be hard. We identify with our dream bodies and assume we will cease to exist if they are destroyed. Other than rare lucid dreams, we never really recognize that we're dreaming until we wake up. Yet from our usual waking state, we can look back on our former dreams and see that our dream state of consciousness has less ontological validity or reality than the one we're in now. So the Course suggests that, Kim, if you can read that, in italics, from Dreams Show You. Kim, you there?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you can read that bit that I've highlighted for you.
I can't see it, Jono. When you say highlighted.
Oh, really?
I do. Okay. Dreams show you that you have the power to make a world as you would have it be. And while you see it, you do not doubt that it is real. If there is a world clearly within your mind, that seems to be outside. You seem to waken and the dream is gone. And what you seem to have woken to, is but another form of the same world you see in dreams. All your time is spent in dreaming. Your sleeping and your waking dreams have different forms, and that is all.
Yeah, it's a very profound. It's saying this is like a dream, whether you're asleep and dreaming or you seem to be awake and dreaming, you're just dreaming. You know, the world is a dream. All we see or seem is but a dream within a dream, said Edgar Allan Poe. Very, very profound poem that. So the Course is saying that our usual waking state is also a dream. In fact, a very unhappy psychotic dream, which is why the world is so full of pain and suffering and death. So the Course offers us a way out. It says there's an alternate thought system which can replace our negative dream with a happy one. It's still a dream, but it's the happiest dream we can create, and one from which it's much easier to awaken. So that becomes our task. Okay, live the happy dream, reinterpret all the unhappiness in this world into a happy dream, and from the happy dream, you easily awake to eternal happiness beyond the dream. So, but then he says the Course's ultimate goal lies beyond all dreams and aims at awakening from the dream. Right? So it's leaving the dream behind. Not saying make it a better dream. It's saying just wake up from dreaming. And that's a very important distinction. Most teachers and teachings are saying have a better dream. But the Course is saying don't have a better dream, just awaken from the dream. Let go of the dream. This message, there's another state of consciousness, another state of awareness. In our alternative language, we call it awareness, not consciousness, because consciousness is the domain of the ego, which is to our ordinary waking state of consciousness as our waking state is to our sleeping, dreaming state. Right? So as we wake up from a sleeping dream state, we go, oh, now I'm awake. But we're not really awake. We're just dreaming another version of the dream. When we fully awaken from the dream, then that is like it is to our normal waking state, comparative to our waking state to our sleeping dream state. We fully awoken. So that full awakening from the dream is salvation or liberation, enlightenment. In the East, it's called moksha. Hence, the fundamental message of the Course, like the other great spiritual traditions, is just wake up. It's saying to us all, catch a wake up. There's only one thing to do here, and that's to wake up from the dream, and that's your only purpose in life. And anything else is false, and it's going to hold you back into the dream. Okay, so this waking up involves disentangling or detaching ourselves from the culture-wide illusion in which we live. Okay, so this really widespread illusion or consensus trance as one teacher puts it, can be seen as a form of hypnosis. Right? Everyone just buys into it. Everyone believes in it so much that we all buy into it. We all believe it. But when we take what we take to be normality is actually a form of culture-wide hypnosis. So say all the great spiritual traditions, though they use other terms for it, and contemporary thinkers such as Charles Todd, Willis Holman, and Ken Wilber. So this is a perennial philosophy. It's an illusion, it's a dream, it's a matrix, whatever you want to call it. The Course is just urging us, like all the other great teachings, to wake up from our collective trance. Awaken from the dream, awaken from this hypnotic trance which the ego's got you in, and realize what's going on. So this means it offers, for this, follow logically from its claims, the means for this awakening follow logically from its claims about why we hypnotize. If we're entranced by a collective deluding thought system, then obviously the solution is to substitute, in other words, a cognitive behavior modification, another thought system for the deluded one, a thought system that dehypnotizes and awakens us. And this is what the Course aims to do. Aims to offer an alternative thought system we can substitute, if we so choose, for the cultural system instilled in us from birth that has so successfully entranced us. And so it's awakening from this really deep social hypnosis. And this is why it's difficult, because most people just carry on dreaming, and this is normal in the world. To be asleep and dreaming is seemingly completely normal, and those who are awakening are then seemingly abnormal. and seemingly going against the grain and against the system. So in history, there's always been this pushback against enlightened, people who are awakening, and the ego doesn't want that to happen, so it pushes back and tries to stop it. Okay, so that's the first part of the intellect. That's understanding the illusion, recognizing it for what it is, and making a conscious choice to let it go. Yeah, question, Kim?
No question.
Okay. Elaine, you okay?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So then the second path is the path of the heart, or bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of love and devotion, is to really work with your emotions. So this is very intellectual, it's very mind oriented, but working with your emotions can be trickier, right? We know emotions can be really powerfully positive or powerfully negative. So the course focuses on the transformation of emotions as well as of the mind, and the cultivation of love. In fact, it says this is a course about love, and that any course that seeks to teach us who we really are must teach us about love. The type of love that the course emphasizes is universal, non-exclusive, and unconditional love, which is the early Christians called agape. The course calls the love of God. Divine love, the love of God, agape love. This is a love that isn't special, that doesn't have conditions, that just loves everyone and everything equally, because it recognizes that we're all one. The truth is, if we're all one and the same, everyone's equal, then I should love everyone as, in the same way as I love myself. Love your neighbor as yourself. That was Jesus' teaching. But it goes much deeper than just I, separate self, love you as a separate self. That doesn't cut it, does it? Because now you're trying to love, but you're defining yourself as separate from the other person. Divine love says, no, I am one with you. I feel that oneness. I know on a deep level that we are one. And so there's a deeper level of caring, a deeper level of love there, which is the divine love. It's not related to what you do, your past history, your conditioning, your programming, anything you do right now, your future, how you look, what you've said, what you've done. None of that matters. It just is what it is the perfect love of God. So I feel the love of God within me now. That's an example of one of these lessons that focuses on the love and devotion. Another example is today the peace of God envelops me, and I forget all things except his love. Okay, and then this leads us nicely into the topic of relationships. He makes a comment that he's found this in no other tradition. It makes the course quite unique. So the course uses relationships, especially peer group relationships, as the primary vehicle for awakening. So much of it is about peer group relationships, your companions, your brothers, and how you treat them. He always brings it back to that, and the learning needs to be translated into those those practical behaviors, attitudes, and behaviors to your fellow human beings. So Bhakti Yoga also uses relationships, but not so much peer relationships. Rather, Bhakti Yoga usually emphasizes devotion to or love of a god or guru. So it's usually not a love relationship between equals. So the traditional paths is I'm the disciple. I love my guru. I hero worship him. He's above me, but I'm learning from him, and there probably is learning, but there's also an element of okay, now I idolize him. I put him on a pedestal, pedestalize him, as Alan Watts called it. Pedestalize Jesus or Buddha, and you put them on a pedestal when in fact they're actually the same as you. They've just learned their lessons, and they've developed their mindset and their skills to a high degree. So many paths acknowledge the divinity in others, but the course's emphasis on using our peer relationships for awakening is unique in its detail and sophistication. Xavier's fills dozens of daily lessons, hundreds of pages with very precise instructions on healing relationships, practicing forgiveness, seeing each other as mirrors and mutual saviors, recognizing divinity within each of us, letting go of grievances, taking joy in the joy of others, acknowledging our interdependence, relinquishing expectations and demands, and cultivating the desire to love and serve. So many people, myself included, feel that is perhaps the most sophisticated, profound approach to relationships they've seen. Right, and I tend to agree with that. It's emphasis on it's understanding of special relationships versus holy relationships, understanding of forgiveness and how that impacts your relationships, of how to correctly interpret any situation, particularly difficult ones, through the eyes of Christ, through applying this radical forgiveness is really pretty extraordinary. It's very comprehensive. So the Course divides relationships into holy ones and unholy ones. Closest equivalent would be Maslow's distinction between motives, which are deficiency and sufficiency based. When we are motivated by a sense of deficiency and lack, we enter relationships to get something. Or in insufficiency based relationships, both people already have a sense of well-being and wholeness and a desire to enhance and share that through a relationship. So according to the Course, again, one of you read. I think it's Elaine's turn.
Okay.
An unholy relationship is based on differences where each one thinks the other has what he has not. A holy relationship starts from a different premise. Each one has looked within and seen no lack, accepting their completion. They would extend it by joining with another, whole as themselves. They are no there is no they see no difference between these selves, for differences are only of the body.
Yeah, so again, you're not a body. You see the Christ in the other person. You accept that they complete just as you complete, even if they're not behaving that way. You can still perceive that. Someone can be behaving atrociously, governed by their ego, but the Holy Spirit still sees no difference. Differences are of form. They're about the body. They're about the person's identity, personal identity or self-concept, none of which is true, none of which is real. So why would you acknowledge that? So the Course specifically advises us to take each relationship and view it as a means of awakening both people. So that each of us is both teacher and student, patient and therapist. It advises us to approach a relationship with realization. Just as we embody the divine within us, so does the other person. So it's easier and more skillful to look for the divine core within both the other person and yourself, because this divine core is transpersonal and no one encompasses it. The Course contains a number of very practical relationship techniques. For example, it suggests that anytime the holiness of a relationship is threatened, such as in an argument, to proceed as follows. Yeah, so let's just read that, whoever's saying at the time. So Kim, if you can read that.
Whoever's saying at the time the threat is perceived should remember how deep his indebtedness to the other, and how much gratitude is due him, and be glad that he can pay his debt by bringing happiness to both. Let him remember this and say, I desire this holy instant for myself, that I may share it with my brother whom I love. It is not possible that I can have it without him, or he without me. Yet it is wholly possible for us to share it now. And so I choose this instant as the one to offer to the Holy Spirit, that his blessing may descend on us and keep us both in peace.
Yeah, so lovely prayer, saying, I see my brother as myself. We can share this love. In fact, it's only true love if we do share it. Love can't be exclusive. That's special love. I love you in a way that no one else loves you. That special love. So this understanding then of this holy relationship and unconditional love leads to another major emphasis of the Course, which is forgiveness. So Christianity has traditionally emphasized forgiveness. Course gives it a more psychological flavor. It's not the traditional forgiveness of Christianity. When we forgive others, it says we're actually forgiving our own shadow and the projections we've been unwilling to acknowledge within ourselves. But this course really skillfully refines forgiveness to make it apparent that forgiveness serves the person who forgives as much as the person who is forgiven. In fact, it claims that forgiveness is a healing practice of remarkable power, and forgiveness is the key to happiness. So forgiveness, letting go, and relationships, and this whole path of the heart, bhakti yoga, really, bound up. And this is a really major focus of the course. Almost every page, it's talking about letting go. It's talking about your brothers. So it's the love of God, but then it's the love of your neighbor. Those two fundamental commandments that Jesus gave in the Bible. Love the Lord your God, your source with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then love your neighbor as yourself, because you are really one with them. So they are yourself. They are you. Okay, so any questions about the second, the path of the heart? This can be a tricky one because emotions are challenging, and then you were talking about those in the expression session. But to transform those emotions is equally powerful. If you really feel deeply, then that can be a great gift, because you can now transform the negative emotions into positive ones of great love and great joy and great peace, which is what we all ultimately do want to feel. So you're more able to feel, even if that means you've felt a lot of suffering. You're more able to also feel love and peace and joy. And if you open your heart and you let go of the negatives, then that's what you will feel. All right, does that make sense? So any questions about either of those paths? So that's the first two, the path of the intellect, the path of the heart, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga. And you can see very strong elements of the course in those two, right? You can very clearly see that these two paths are embedded into the course. Okay. So then a couple more paths. These are much shorter, you'll be pleased to know. So the path of service is service and work in the world.
So do you have a link for this so that I can just have it at hand so that I can read it every now and again? Where
it's in the message today.
Oh, it's actually in the message, yeah. So it's just a handy thing to have, over the time, when it's needed.
Yeah, it's in Telegram already, but I can.
Yeah, could you? Because it's going to be useful for.
Yeah. Yeah, I can post it again. That's doable.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Let's just do that right now, shall we?
And then I'll just put it in my notebook.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, right. So I'm just going to copy the link.
Yeah. So it's actually one of the best articles on the course I've read.
Yeah, it does. It's
unpacks it and then compares it to yoga, which is probably the world's oldest spiritual path. And you can see that it really stacks up. There's a lot of depth in it. So then just the path of service is karma yoga, it's called, which is about service and work in the world. Very strong emphasis in the course again. It says we don't have to retire into a monastery to practice it. Indeed, the course emphasizes the peace, love, and joy we cultivate can be taken out into the world and increased by sharing. So it's encouraging us. It says, and this course requires your eyes and your ears and your hands and your feet, and most of all your willingness. to spread this, to share this. He says these kinds of things. So he's asking us to be, active kind of disciples of this teaching, saying, okay, we'll spread it, extend it. That doesn't mean you have to actively preach it, but you do it by example. You do it in the way that you're speaking and you're acting in the world. You do it by demonstrating this thought system to others in every interaction that you have. It's the only way you can really teach it. So it's really saying if we try to practice for ourselves alone, our efforts are actually counterproductive, because we're reinforcing the belief that we're separate from other people, denying the deeper reality of the unity of the one mind. So the Course has parallels with Mahayana Buddhism, which has similar teachings. Both suggest the final liberation for any of us depends on liberation for all of us, advocates doing service to others as our essential means of awakening. But the Course does draw a distinction between service and sacrifice that is extremely useful. It warns against serving out of sacrifice, because sacrifice breeds resentment and anger. The very idea of sacrifice is contradictory, because if we're doing something for ourselves and viewing it as a sacrifice, then we're again seeing ourselves as separate from them, from the other person. The idea is to understand that whatever we do for another is also for ourselves, in which case you'd have no problem doing it, right? Because I'm just doing it for myself. If I bless them, I'm blessing myself. It's only the misperception that I'm doing it for someone else than me, then that brings problems in. Because if they're other than me, then if I hurt them, I condemn them, I attack them, I'm not attacking myself, I'm attacking someone other than me. And it has no impact on me. But Jesus is teaching us that that's just not true. You're actually always attacking yourself. Okay, so yeah, any thoughts on the path of service, which is the third one, how that is talked about in the Course?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So it's all embedded in there. There's not like one path against another. It's all part of this holistic journey of developing trust. Because it's development of trust in mainly for teachers is this path of awakening through these four primary ways. Okay, and then finally you have the path of meditation. So this is called Raja Yoga, which emphasizes meditation and mind training. So the Course states that this is a course in mind training. Very clearly, he's saying you need to train your mind. Your mind's undisciplined, like other meditative traditions. However, he points out that the untrained mind has a mind of its own. Its labile has little ability to concentrate, so it's just kind of flitting all over the place. It's a monkey mind, driven by desires, cravings, and aversions. It's overcome by fear and anger frequently. And so the Course sets out various ways or techniques of bringing the mind under greater control. Right? So it's a mind training course, so that you can discipline your mind. So one lesson affirms, you can read that. Is it Kim's turn? I think it's Kim's turn.
Yeah. So I have a kingdom I have a kingdom I must rule. At times it does not seem I am its king at all. It seems to triumph over to me and tell me what to think and what to do and feel. And yet it has been given me to serve whatever purpose I perceive it in. My mind can only serve. Today, I give it service to the Holy Spirit to employ on as He sees fit. I have thus directed my mind, which I alone can rule, and thus I set it free to do the will of God.
Okay, so any thoughts on that?
Mm,
It's about
as
mind
a
training.
kind of,
You must control your thoughts. That's a huge part of the course. And the path of meditation is embedded in the lessons. A lot of people don't realize that the lessons are meditations. Each lesson is an invitation to meditate or reflect or contemplate. In the Christian mystic tradition, they call it contemplatio. Right? So you contemplate on a Bible verse or some sacred writing, of one of the great teachers, and you'd reflect on that. For instance, Martin Luther came to some kind of awakening when he just reflected on on the Bible verse where the Apostle Paul um, wrote, it's not by works that we are saved, but by grace. And he didn't really understand that because of the whole Catholic tradition of sin and guilt. And he was a Catholic priest. Really, really struggled. The whole sin guilt thing had really got to him. But he broke through by contemplating on that single verse. He realized that it cannot be that you're saved because of what you do, because you do penance, because you make any sacrifice. You're saved because by the grace of God, it's given to you, which is what all the great perennial teachings are saying. It's given to you graciously by God, and it's just there for you to accept or not. If you want to deny it, then you can, but you don't actually have to earn it and work for it. There's this grace that's given to you. It doesn't mean that you don't do spiritual practices to reconnect with that, because you might be very separated from it. But the grace is always there. So naturally, because the course is such an integrated system, the four yogas naturally overlap. They're mutually supportive. Example of that is as we replace unskillful beliefs, we're less likely to feel angry. Right? So we've managed our minds, we've looked at our beliefs, we let go of those, then we get greater emotional control. We don't get as angry. This makes it easier to forgive. With forgiveness, greater love arises, which in turn answers the desire to serve. So now we really want to give and share, and we have a sort of sense of higher purpose in the world. All these leave the mind less agitated and easier to control. So, it feeds back into the control again, thereby making it easier to change beliefs, forgive, love, and serve. And so becomes a positive upward spiral. Although sometimes progress can seem to be very slow. You go, I'm still doing the same thing and I can't get out of it. And a lot of course students beat themselves up a lot. So I think, this is something to be aware of. Don't beat yourself up if you get it wrong. It just means your ego is sticking in, it's defending, and that's what it's designed to do. Of course, it's going to do that. It doesn't want to let go of its separate identity. So of course you're going to get resistance, and that means sometimes you're just going to do the same thing over and over again. You go, I'm not really making progress. But as long as you continue practicing and working through this by applying the course's teachings, you are making progress, even if it seems to be very slow or non-existent at the time. So the course really teaches patience. It's saying, you just got to be patient with this. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and this is a lifelong journey. Yeah, so really, really interesting stuff, and we could carry on the article, but I want to get to the lesson. I think those four paths and comparing them to the course maybe give you a bit of a deeper, broader perspective on the course, and just what a very well-rounded, integrated, deep, rich path it is. You can compare it to these very ancient paths, and it comes out really, really well. In fact, it integrates all of them into one path, which makes it very deep, very rich, also quite challenging to master all of this, to have mastery of your intellect, to have this genuine love and devotion for God and for all of God's extensions, all of your brothers and sisters, to um, dedicate your life to serving others rather than yourself, to be able to calm your mind and connect with your source in deep meditation. These are all major accomplishments. These are not trivial achievements, and the course will help you do all of that if you just keep practicing it. So in my view, and that's shared by people like Roger Walsh and Ken Wilber, it is right at the top of the tree. I believe it's the best spiritual path available. Um, I'm biased. I've used it as my way of awakening. So obviously other people might say, oh well, how can you say that? But it's very complete. It's very comprehensive. It's very detailed. It's got specific mind training exercises. It's got a specific course that you follow. Logical sequence of teachings. It's got the practical aspect in the lessons. It's got the theoretical aspect in the text. It's got an FAQs in the manual for teachers. Very, very comprehensive mind training course, which if you practice it will help you to start awakening through all of these four paths simultaneously, rather than just going, okay, I'm on the path of meditation, and therefore, I'm not really bothered about service to others, or I'm not really bothered about devotion, because it's just about meditating and checking out of the illusion. They're all valuable. They're all aspects of awakening. Ideally, if we can integrate them together into beautiful kind of harmony, our life becomes that harmonious flow, a symphony, if you like, of these different notes combining in a beautiful way that it really helps and heals and blesses us and the world, which is where he wants to lead us to be the Christ in the world, be the light of the world, and share this love and light that's in us. Okay, so any thoughts, comments, or questions on that? I'll leave you to read the rest of the article. There's some other stuff on the pros and cons, other therapeutic strategies, how it relates to those. Yeah, all good stuff.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, no, I've got that now in my notes, so
Yeah,
I shall be reading it. Yeah.
And quite a good way also to introduce people to the course.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is. Say, okay, well, here's a link. Just go read that. That'll give you, particularly if they're familiar with yoga and some of the Eastern teachings. A lot of people are. You go, okay, this is how it kind of stacks up and compares, and then they might say, oh, okay, I'm really I'm really getting that. That makes a lot of sense. And so I'm more interested in studying this. So you're giving it a context and you're relating it to probably the best known spiritual system in the world, yoga, most ancient spiritual transformation system there is, which a lot of people are now familiar with because yoga's been in the West for 100 odd years, and but most people don't really understand the depth of yoga. Oh, yoga is about going and doing physical postures in a yoga studio. No, there's a there's a lot more depth to it than that. And so the better yoga teachers teach that. They're like, there's this spiritual dimension of awakening and unity consciousness and so on. These practices are designed to facilitate that. It's not just about going and getting a good workout and stretching to get physical benefits. It's mental, emotional, physical. It's on every level. So the course works on every level. It's very comprehensive, and I believe if you really dedicate your life to it, you practice it, that ultimately you can awaken fully in one lifetime. That's the promise. That this is a path of full awakening from the dream. It might take you a lifetime, but that's fairly short in the grand scheme of things. To do it in one lifetime, if you've had hundreds or even thousands, it's not very much at all. Okay, so yeah, any other thoughts or comments or questions on this? I'll leave you to read the rest of it otherwise. And in the meantime, we can just crack on, I think, with let's have a look at the lesson. Okay, so let's look at lesson 49. Okay, so lesson 249. Again, very short. These lessons in the second part of the workbook are pretty short. Just a couple of paragraphs. Ideally, read the. Don't have time for that now. I think we did that last week, actually. What is the world? Read the insert. What is the world? Which is really just saying in 30-second summary, the world is false. It's a projection of our mind. It's false perception, and our job really is to see that and let it go. And that's sort of quite well summarized in that diagram. I'm separate. I'm sinful. I'm guilty. I project that out, and I create an image which now seems to be outside of me that shows me that I'm separate and sinful and guilty, because that was my belief. But I can change that idea of separation. That's what forgiveness does. It helps us let go of that thought of separation and sin and guilt, and so we don't react in the same way to these external projections of the sin and guilt. And all the world must disappear and all its errors vanish. Now its source is gone, its effects are gone as well. So the world just disappears, essentially, as you practice forgiveness. And today's lesson is all about forgiveness. Okay, so there we go. If we can read that in its original and alternative, kindly. One of you read the original, one read the alternative.
Yeah, forgiveness ends all suffering and loss.
Okay, and Kim, you read the alternative.
Letting go ends all suffering and loss.
Yeah, so the only translation there is just that forgiveness is letting go. So a lot of people don't really understand what forgiveness means in Christian teaching. I think it's probably one of the least understood concepts. Okay, so I forgive you. What does that mean? How do I forgive you? And of course, a lot of people are struggle because they don't understand it. Whereas if you just say, well, I let go of my sense of being wounded by you, of sense of being unfairly treated, my anger, my fear, my attack thoughts. If I let all that go, then I'm free, right? Then my suffering and my loss is over, because it's only my thoughts and my emotions that are causing me suffering and loss. So when you translate forgiveness as letting go, it becomes a lot more doable, a lot more understandable, which is why I've called the whole course and program the art of letting go. It ends all suffering and all loss, because if you've let go of suffering and loss, how can you experience it? Irrespective of what's going on outside you, they have no impact on you if you've let them go. So that's what forgiveness really offers, is a complete letting go of all pain, all suffering, all loss, which leaves only love, peace, and joy, only happiness, and that becomes your only experience at full enlightenment, full awakening. Of course, easier said than done, because there's a lot to let go of. In case you hadn't noticed, there's a lot of seeming pain, suffering, and loss in the world. It's all over the place. There's people experiencing it all the time. You've probably experienced a fair amount of it in your life. So now Jesus is saying, well, just let go of it. How do you do that? Well, that's what we have to learn by practicing these lessons and by making honest attempts. Doesn't mean you'll get it right first time, but when you attempt it, you are starting to chip away at that ultimate job of awakening. Okay, so let's read number 1 then. Can one of you read the original and then pause at the end of the sentence, and the other read the alternative below it.
Can I go?
Oh, either or.
Oh,
Oh, yes, Kim, you.
Well, go ahead, Elaine. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Forgiveness paints a picture of a world where suffering is over, loss becomes impossible, and anger makes no sense.
Letting go paints a picture of the world where suffering is over, loss becomes impossible, and anger makes no sense.
Attack is gone, and madness has an end.
Attack is gone, and madness has ended.
What suffering is now conceivable?
What suffering is now conceivable?
What loss can be sustained?
What loss can be sustained?
The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, charity, and endless giving.
The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, loving kindness, and endless giving.
It is now so like heaven that it quickly is transformed into the light that it reflects.
It is now so like the state of pure formless awareness that it quickly transformed into this awareness, which it reflects.
And so the journey which the Son of God began has ended in the light from which he came.
And so the journey, the extension of perfect love began, has ended in the pure formless awareness of perfect love from which it came. From the top,
And from the
letting go paints a picture of a world where suffering is over, has become impossible, loss becomes impossible, and anger makes no sense. Attack is gone, and madness has ended. What suffering is now conceivable? What loss can be sustained? The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, loving kindness, and endless giving. It is now so like the state of pure formless awareness that it is quickly transformed into this awareness which it reflects. And so the journey, the extension of perfect love had ended in the pure formless awareness of perfect love from which it came. So letting go of forgiveness allows suffering, all things of illusion, anger, attack, basically disappears. And you can question or say, was it even actually there, or could it even last because of the letting go? So then the world, which we once perceived, is now the reality of a state of pure joy and love, transforming into something close to pure formless awareness of perfect love that it reflects.
Yeah. So, letting go reveals this deeper reality to us. Without letting go, we remain blind. We remain stuck in our false, illusory world of sin, guilt, fear, and attack. Letting go of sin, guilt, fear, and attack reveal this higher awareness, this pure formless awareness to us. So it's really just stripping away. It's like instead of painting a masterpiece, as a painting, we have to put stuff onto a canvas to make a beautiful masterpiece. It's a sculpture. It's a chipping away. There's a block of stone, and we chip away all the rough edges. And actually, by taking away, we reveal the essence of who we are. That was always inside the sculpture, but was just obscured. Michelangelo, actually. was asked how he carved such magnificent sculpture like the David, the Pieta, and he said, well, I see it already in my mind. I see the image of it, and then my job is just to remove what is not it, what is not that authentic self inside. I just remove all of the stuff that's not. And so he just removes all that, and then what's revealed is the very beautiful essence that was always in there. So the David was always in the block of marble, but it took 40 years for someone to come and reveal that. So it's an interesting idea, isn't it? That you don't create it, you just reveal what was already there. And that's what letting go does. So letting go reveals your true self. Helps you realize that that's what you are. Okay, and then Elaine, if you can read that from our friend Kat. Just a little comment on.
Yeah, my senses can be redirected, and my senses are not doomed to giving me a false impression of reality, to leading away from truth. They can lead me toward truth. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes sincerity, it takes serious commitment, it takes training. But my senses can be redirected.
So all the mind training, most mind training is really about redirecting our senses. Our senses are very engaged in the world, and then our senses create thinking and emotions. So most of these practices focus on a redirection of the senses. Okay, so you're going to reinterpret what you're seeing and hearing, or you're going to shut it out. You're going to close your eyes. You're going to try and block out the sound, or you use headphones or music or something to help you focus. And instead of just listening to all the sounds and seeing the sights of the world, you go within and you start finding a deeper reality. But to do that, you've got to overcome the tendency of your mind to be distracted by the outside world. That's a huge part of what meditation is. Right? Just let go of the tendency to be distracted and be able to just sit calmly, quietly in a peaceful, happy state, just with yourself, without having to do anything, to go anywhere, even to think, just to be happy, as you really are. All right, so it's a paradox because it takes sincerity, commitment, and training, but the paradox is that you're already there, but actually that's your true nature. You've just covered it over so thoroughly that it's going to take a lot of effort to uncover it. The same way as the block of marble took a lot of effort to chip away, everything that wasn't the David, to reveal it. So that was the commitment, that the training. But that's what the course is training us to do. It's a mind training process designed to help us to undertake this training course and come out the other end of it as awakened, someone who's really let go of our ego being our separate self concept and has freed their mind, so that we rejoin our source and we become one with this perfect loving awareness, this pure formless awareness of perfect love from which we came. Okay, so then just a little prayer.
So I go first.
Yeah.
Father, we would return our minds to you.
My source, I choose to return my awareness to you.
We have betrayed them, held them in a vise of bitterness, and frightened them with thoughts of violence and death.
I have betrayed it, held it in a vice of bitterness, and frightened it with thoughts of violence and death.
Now would we rest again in you, as you created us.
Now I choose to rest again in you as you extend me and all of us. From the top, my source, I choose to return my awareness to you. I have betrayed it, held it in a vice of bitterness, and frightened it with thoughts of violence and death. Now I choose to rest again in you as you extend me and all of us. It's just saying how we can choose to go back to our source and put our awareness on the source, because not recently, for a lifetime or whatever, I have we've betrayed it with thoughts of violence and death. So we choose to rest again in our true source with our extensions, all of us.
And you think how much violence and death there is in the world. And you just switch on the TV, listen to a radio. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you think about it. Maybe you start reacting to it, saying, "Well, this is the delusion." You think it's a world in which violence and death exist, and where they're inescapable, but you're wrong. Fortunately, you can make another choice here. So instead, we choose to rest again in you, in this awareness, this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which extends all of us. Right? It's one singular awareness that really doesn't mean anything. One singular awareness, and nothing else means anything. It's in that awareness that we find our salvation or our awakening. Okay, so there, interesting. Yeah, it's putting it in the first person singular, just as I'm doing. So that, Kim, if you read that again, that
Father,
really.
I would return. Okay. Father, I would return my mind to you. I have betrayed it, held it in the vise of bitterness, and frightened it with thoughts of violence and death. Now would I rest again in you, as you created me.
Yeah. And then he makes a note here, lines change to singular instead of we to make it more personal. So I found that quite interesting because he's doing the same thing as I did, just in a illustrative form in illustrations rather than it's purely text. But it does make sense to really personalize it, make it okay. It's not about we; it's about I would return. I want to return my mind to you. I choose to, instead of I choose to return my awareness to you. And you're addressing your source. So this is the very source of your mind, your source of your awareness, your being, which is obviously inside you. It's internal. It can't be anywhere else. That you start seeing that the idea that God is outside of you is totally delusional. It's your own deepest awareness. So how can it be anywhere outside of you? That's just a false idol. That's a false God. Okay. So yeah, good lesson, short and sweet, but profound nevertheless. Reminder that forgiveness or letting go really is the answer. It's the only way. It offers us everything we want, offers us everything we need, and we just got to keep practicing it, no matter what seems to happen. All right. So any other thoughts, comments, or questions on that one?
No.
Shall we discuss? All right. So shall we do a meditation on it to close the session? You up for that? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to drop off now. So yeah, So see you all next week.
Yeah. Okay, then.
Thanks
Yeah.
for this. Yeah.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
All right.
Namaste.
Namaste. All right. So let's jump into a mid, shall we? Okay, so this is meditation on today's lesson, which is lesson 249. Forgiveness ends all suffering and loss, or an alternative name is letting go ends all suffering and loss. So just make yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises, chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Breathing in, nice full deep inhale breath. Feel the energy rising up your spine, from the base of your spine all the way up. Spine, feel a warm tingling sensation, culminating at the top of the breath in your head. Nice deep breath in. Now notice any thoughts of suffering and loss. Forgiveness, as Yeshua, letting go, paints a picture of a world where suffering is over, loss is impossible. Change paint, say reveals a picture. Well, suffering is over, loss is impossible, and anger makes no sense at all. So you just drop all these negative thoughts and emotions. What is left? Yeshua says attack is gone, madness is ended. So that's the case. What suffering is now conceivable, and what loss can be sustained. The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, loving kindness, and endless giving. I also like the state of pure formless awareness that is quickly transformed into this awareness. So just exhale out all of this loss, ideas of loss, scarcity, sacrifice, death. It's all mad, it's all crazy. None of it really means anything, none of it really exists. Blow it out, the breeze of your breath, like a dark cloud or a black smoke. Visualize this kind of dark brown or grey, even black. Just breathing in again. So just embrace, accept the abundance. All becomes a place of joy, abundance, loving kindness, and endless giving. Breathing in and just inviting those into your mind, into your awareness, into your life. Feel the joy, feel the abundance in your heart. So acknowledge that this is really very similar. Feel into that. As you listen to these words, breathing in again. The world becomes a place of joy, abundance, loving kindness, and endless giving. As you exhale, exhaling out, flowing it all away with the breeze of your breath. So the world is now so like the state of pure formless awareness. So just for that, it is quickly transformed into this awareness which it reflects. We start seeing this light shining through in the world. Start seeing this deeper awareness that's always been there but has been obscured. And so it just starts shining through. We call that the light. We see the light in other people and places and circumstances and events. So the journey, perfect love, extension of perfect love began, has ended in the pure formless awareness, perfect love from which it came. So we go full circle, we go back to our source. The only place we can really go. If it's our true source, we'll eventually end up there. Yes, breathing in and out through your nose, nice deep, slow, rhythmical breaths. Find yourself that all of this is mind training to redirect your senses. Senses can be redirected. They're not doomed to give you false impressions of reality and lead you away from truth. Instead, they can lead you toward the truth. This process takes sincerity, commitment, mind training. Not an overnight process generally, it's more of a slow burn, a long-term project, a marathon rather than a sprint. So just resolve to so now just say a prayer, really appealing to your higher self, your source here, not something outside of you. It's just a way of connecting with and accessing this. So my source or my father, as you breathe in, say, my source, I choose to return my awareness to you. My source, I choose to return my awareness to you. As you breathe in, admit that you have betrayed it. You have betrayed it, held it in vice, bitterness, and frightened with thoughts of violence and death. That's all in the past. That's what I did when I didn't know better. So rest again. As you exhale, choose to rest again in this presence. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. Let the stillness and the silence there's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Really nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, and be still. Sinking deeper and deeper, going deeper and deeper with every breath. Just be quiet, be still. Allow what's being called the peace of God, it's possible understanding just to arise in your mind and your heart. Sink into that, sink deep. Just gently bringing yourself back from this very deep place into an awareness of the body and your breath. Via that, senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you can open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, and noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils, pausing at the top of the inhale. So just smile and scan your mind. So just observe any thoughts and emotions going on still. Breathe into them if there's anything that's difficult, unpleasant, challenging, and remind yourself of today's lesson. Forgiveness or letting go ends all suffering and loss. So any hint of suffering and loss that you're experiencing can end right now if you choose to forgive or let go of it. So let's do that. Breathe in. Imagine you breathing in the light. Every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being is in the light. Just be willing to let go all that suffering and loss. Breathing love and peace and joy into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, fusing it with high frequency light energy. Maybe you see your organs all filled with and anything that's not of that frequency, everything it seems to be a block, just exhale, let it go. Blowing it all out like a dark cloud or black smoke. It's going, gone. Blowing out any last remaining thought, feeling, emotion, anything, negativity. Just resting for a few moments in this lovely peace and stillness. So just observe your body, scan the body, feet, your hands. Notice what you're feeling and touching. As you breathe in, notice maybe a subtle smell in your nose, a taste in your mouth. Notice what you're hearing. So, just noticing the breath, noticing what you're feeling and touching with your hands, noticing any taste in your mouth, any smell in your nose. Notice what you're feeling. Breathing in again, and just noticing all these things on this first. Be aware of all these things. It's sight, sounds, sense perceptions, but very objectively, in quite a detached way, so realize that you are not them, cannot take you over and consume and possess your mind. So just exhale out, just whatever you're aware of, remember that doesn't have the power to upset you. You are the one, truth, the light. Nothing else to go, nothing else to do. Be here now. Rejoice in this really simple but profound spiritual practice. And finally, on the count of 3, you're just going to open your eyes. Take a minute just to look around. Bring yourself back fully into the room. Just be fully present. Noticing what's around you in this very calm, peaceful, detached way, without any judgment. Notice how peaceful it all is, how contented and peaceful you feel. And this is the state that forgiveness brings you. State beyond all suffering and loss, in which there's just peace. We call happiness, contentment. So notice how that feels. Just really connect with that feeling and just allow your true self to guide you in this state for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow and your weekend, to end all suffering and loss and make it a truly peaceful, happy one, which is my wish for you. So that is it for today. Let's call it to a close.
Yeah, thank you, Jono.
Only a pleasure. Thanks for staying till the end. Hope you enjoyed that. Got some benefits, and yeah, we'll speak. Let's have a chat tomorrow. You probably want to go to bed. I can stop the recording if you want. But
No,
how's it?
I'm tired, Jono.
I'll
It's
just
late. It's 11:30.
okay. I know,
Yeah,
yeah. Only 2 hours
yeah,
behind.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
chat tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, till tomorrow.
Thanks.
Namaste.
Just
Thanks.
stay. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, so that is a wrap for today. Thank you to Kim and Elaine for joining. If you enjoyed the session, a couple of things you can do. Why not hit the subscribe button? Subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified whenever I go live, which is typically once a week. So you can join the live stream or catch the recording. You can also go to lifepool.com. You can see that spelling in the image in the background. So just type in lifepool.com, or you can see the link below. Click on that, and at lifepool.com you can sign up to join my Telegram group, which I share inspirational quote every day, my take on it, kind of blog post, some other resources like the article we discussed, sometimes ebooks, sometimes extra meditations or discussion sessions. You also get access to these live sessions. You can join any of these live calls when When you join the Telegram group, you'll be notified about the timing, what's going on, and how to join them by Zoom. So, as well as getting access to all the other stuff. So, if you'd like to take it a bit further, head over to lifebook.com, sign up. You just need a mobile number and you need Telegram installed on your phone, and then I'll be able to add you to the group, and you'll get some really hopefully valuable, deep, profound insights and wisdom based on A Course in Miracles, but I draw on other spiritual paths every day via Telegram. So check it out. Hope to catch you on the inside of the group or on one of these sessions soon. So again, thanks so much for watching or listening, and wish you only well. Namaste. Which means the truth, the forgiving self, that knows the truth in me, acknowledges and honors that same forgiving self in you. Peace.